Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to recap Fury 13. We're going to preview the UFC Fight Pass Invitational 11, headlined by Ffion Davies versus Adele in the rematch that I've wanted to see for a long time. And we're going to talk a little bit about the IBJJF 2025 World Championships. We have brackets out, talk about some of the mainstays in those divisions, who's probably going to take the gold. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, the co-host.
Corey.
How you doing?
Phenomenal.
Good to be here, man. I'm happy to have you back 2 weeks in a row, back in the new studio.
It's awesome, dude. Memorial Day weekend, 3-day weekend, why not?
I drove about 1,500 miles over the last 3 days. It's been good, but we're here now recapping everything. We have just a phenomenal amount of news, like way more news than we usually have. Props to Flo. The bulletins that they're putting out recently have actually been really good in there. And I love that Flo is now covering not just stuff that is happening on Flo Grappling, but stuff that is outside in the kind of the greater landscape of the sport. Something we criticize them for years and years and years over, but they've really I appreciate that they're now working as both a news organization and as a broadcaster, because there's a bunch of stuff happening, some stuff that we have, some stuff that we didn't have. Let's move into the fun stuff first. Who's number 128? Has been announced. The main card has been announced. We have a 185-pound championship bout between Jontas Gracie and Miki Galvao.
Hot like fire.
Yeah. Notably, you noticed that Miki Galvao, we don't see him in the Worlds listings for any divisions this year.
Got to get that money, dog.
Which makes sense that he's gone to tournaments that pay. We'll get into that discussion a little later in the show when we go to preview IBJJF Worlds. Who's number one is announced for June 13th. So coming up, honestly, in a couple of weeks, we'll probably preview it in about 2 weeks here. After we'll recap Worlds next week, and then move on to who's number one preview. Heavyweight championship, we have Felipe Pena versus Luke Griffith. This is Luke Griffith's old guy revenge tour.
Yeah,
essentially, it's like he's just
so.
Kind of in onto. I think I want to see him versus Victor, and that's about the last guy. Like Felipe Pena, I think this is a phenomenal matchup. I think style wise and build wise, I've always thought Luke Griffith had this most similar build to Felipe Pena.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
It'll be interesting to see how Luke decides to play through the guard, or if he decides to play card. Like this is a really, I'm amped for this matchup. Another matchup that's really interesting for a bunch of other reasons. Again, we'll preview all of these when we get closer. Like in 2 weeks, we'll break down some more kind of technical aspects of these matches. Sanji Ribeiro versus Kit Dale. We just saw Sanji versus Boogie Martinez, and it was Sanji's on-retirement who's number one debut. Sanji's back, and everyone was like, Sanji never really left, but he kind of he's been a little bit masked on the Masters competition, but seeing him back in who's number one, putting on a crazy good performance versus Boogie Martinez, versus another guy that was not gone for a couple years, but Kit Dale. Kit Dale, we talked about him on the CGI2 run for trials, for the Giles trials. He won the 16-man on 2 weeks' notice, and then goes into the 6-man. He wasn't able to take and win the 6-man, but it was a very good showing. I am honestly much more interested in this matchup than I probably should be, just with kind of the two stories come together. Both guys kind of being semi-retired,
right?
And then out of sort of nowhere being unretired and on who's number one. I'm like, well, this is a tough match for Kit Dale, but it's interesting. It has its own interesting storyline enough where it's two guys coming back out of retirement, because they kind of still can do it and show that they're really, really good.
Yes. On that level.
It will be fun. We have a 155-pound bout versus Paige Yvette versus Cayun Ramos. We have Felipe Andrew versus Declan Moody at 205.
For some reason, Felipe Andrew's name just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb with no gi to me. I don't know. I still see him as primarily.
It's so funny. You said that on the pre-show, and I'm pretty sure he has a ton of no gi stuff. I think he made the transition over a couple of years ago. I think he was now at AOJ. I think as of a couple of years ago. I could have that wrong, but. I always have. So Felipe Andrew is really funny to me because for years he had his juvenile picture on the IBJJF, for his badge for IBJJF, and it was picture him when he was 13 until I think 3 or 4 years ago. It was this young little kid picture of Felipe Andrew, and it's oh yeah, he's 200 plus pounds now. This is fun. We saw Declan look really good at the Giles trials 2 weeks ago. It'll be interesting to see him kind of versus Felipe Andrew, who we haven't covered a lot recently. We also have Kyle Chambers versus Victor Severo on this card as well. This is like you were saying on the pre-show. You're like, this is actually a pretty
This is a pretty stacked card, man.
pretty
Should
dope
be very
card.
interesting. Very interesting.
And again, the matchmaking is fun here. It's, it's fun. Also, I think this interesting news here, it's sort of in the header for the news article we have from Flo. This will be, let's see, the rest of the main card. There is going to be the heavyweight title is being taken or like being stripped from Gordon or vacated by Gordon, and the winner of the Felipe Pena versus Luke Griffith match is going to fight for that title. So I think that all of but confirms what we've kind of thought and known since Gordon put the steroid video out, which is like,
done.
I'm retired. I'm done. Yeah. There's a online rumor kind of going on that because Danaher's out for surgery, that Gordon has taken over the more of the coaching role and the head coaching role. And it seems like that's sort of where the team's going. And Danaher might be actually having a bigger retirement from coaching altogether, and Gordon sort of taking that role over. Like, again, guys don't compete forever. I said it probably 3 or 4 years ago. I was like, hey man, Gordon's not going to compete forever. And it will be, when he leaves, it will kind of suck because he was a really interesting guy to watch on the mats.
Yes.
We may be at that time now where it's like, yep, his ADCC match versus Pena and Yuri were the last times. That's kind of what we said on the recap of ADCC, of the ADCC in Vegas. The ADCC shows, like, I don't think Gordon's going to compete again. Like, these looked rough. He wins by a very small margin. He retires, and now we're on to the next generation of his guy, which is Luke Griffith. So, interesting development there, kind of very quietly, sort of. I'm curious if they're going to do a bigger retirement for him on who's number one, or if this is just going to be kind of a quiet retirement.
Yeah, should be interesting. Either way, that would be interesting to watch if it was a big to do. I mean, I think he for a while he had BJJ on his back.
Pretty much, yeah.
For the most part, I mean, even people I work with that don't know much about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like, have you heard of this Gordon Ryan guy? I'm like, yeah, a couple times.
Yeah, we've heard about him.
I've heard of him a couple
yes,
times.
The most
he's
famous
really
guy
good, right? I'm like, yeah, he's pretty good.
He's quite good. Yes, that's one way to describe him.
So layman's know who he is. So
that was always
he really profoundly affect Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in a positive way. So
that was always really funny when he would come up in conversation. They're like, "Do you know who he is?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've interviewed him." But and then I get that weird look like from like people in my work. They would go like, "Huh, there's a lot more about you that I have no idea professionally than like I've interviewed him." They go, "What? I don't know a lot about what you do, apparently, from this very brief conversation we've had about this weird niche sport that I know you do, and now I've walked into a conversation I do not understand." It was always one of the things that made me laugh the most.
Things that make you go, Yeah.
Also, we have Felipe Pena announcing that he is the +99 wild card for Team Atos. And I do love it. This is a funny note here. He basically confirms Atos' involvement. Like, we know Atos is now going to field a team because Pena's the wild card for Team Atos.
That's crazy.
We talked about it. I was super hoping that we'd see a Team Atos on CJI. Like, because again, Atos is that big powerhouse team.
Yes.
That like Worlds, like any major event, Atos is in the mix, fucking it up for everyone else.
Pretty much.
It's like, oh cool, we have this guy. It's like, oh man, we got to fight Atos. You got Kind, you got all the guys from Atos. They had the biggest super team, like the biggest super camp for a couple of years there. When we were probably 2018. We were doing the show, like Atos was like the super team. They had guys and women every weight class that was just, they were in the mix for everything. It is cool to see them and their big team kind of take on Pena, which I think is really funny that of all the teams that probably didn't need a wild card,
it's them.
They go and grab Pena. and then you look and you're like, I mean, you did grab one of the best +99 guys in the world, ADCC champion, absolute champion.
Card,
yeah. Like, it makes sense. Again, but look at the guys that they have at +99 at Atos, and you're like, oh, we'll take Pena. You're like, that's great. But hey, again, him and Andre have a good working relationship since their 5 fights they had over the years, and Gi and Nogi and ADCC. So it's like, again, it's cool to see those not friendships, but those like guys post-career work together more and more, as we've seen Pena, I think, worked with Andre for Gordon and Gordon for Andre, and they back and forth over the years. It's cool to see them.
Must be a lot of respect there, too.
Yeah.
Obviously, and confidence. And
you always hear them talk about each other. There's a lot of respect there, especially since, like, Andre's retired now. It's much, much more. It's cool. Let's see. You read the CJI drama with Flo. It's there. It is cool to see that basically Flo is going to continue to cover CJI. They're actually making an effort to like, hey, it's not being broadcast on Flow. It is going to be broadcast on YouTube, but they are going to cover it, which I appreciate and I like. It's a major event. It pays out a bunch of money. It has the best guys in the world. I like that we're getting a grappling organization like Flow that is covering it.
Yes.
It is cool. And then also him and Craig and Mo apparently are trying to bury the hatchet there. And they have confirmed CGI 3
Awesome.
for next year back into like the bracket format, which again, I like. I want to see how the quintet format plays out. I like quintet for a lot of reasons.
Same here.
But man, a good high cash prize bracket. For me, those finals matches or like
$1 million.
Yeah,
Come on,
man.
bro.
There's
Like,
just
you
a
get
different, it's just a
different
different
feel,
level
man.
of stake when it's just like one guy and one guy for all the money.
Yeah.
The team, again, I like the team. The team makes it a lot more of a spectacle in a fun way that I think works really well. Like we love covering quintet. We've covered every single quintet. We've covered other organizations, like smaller organizations that run quintet style or like events. Like because I love quintet, they're a lot of fun to watch. But that big cash prize bracket is like there's a reason that PFL for years and years and years did the big $1 million fights at the end of the year. Like it brings some status and stakes. So I'm amped. Again, I'm happy they're going back next year to the brackets. Also confirmed, Mikey pulled out of the bout with UFC because he is going to be one of the coaches on the grappling season that the UFC is putting together for grapplers at 155 and 170.
Right.
The ultimate grappler, TOG, I think, or I don't know what we all call it, but that's what it looks like is coming down the pipe. For that is why Mikey basically canceled his match with Gio. It's a rematch. We've talked about it.
Which makes sense now. I was wondering, what the heck's going on here? I'm like, why did he cancel that match? But
yeah,
I see why now.
It's also a weird. We talked about it a little bit. It's a weird match. Like Mikey kind of handedly beat Gio the first time.
He had just really gotten into, seemingly got recently getting, into no gi thing. Even though he probably dibbled and dabbled in the past, but just going primarily no gi. That was one of his first couple of fights out. And it's like,
oh, it might have been actually. Yeah, you're right.
And now it's
the road
like
to ADCC and
right. Now it's just a different complexion. Even though it still will be interesting, you never know. But
yeah, it was again a match that I'm happy to have rebooked. But I wasn't super upset to like have this one kind of fall by the wayside. I think they're more interesting matches for kind of both Gio and Mikey.
Sure.
Honestly, and so like I did not see this one run back was not a huge loss for me.
Maybe they were trying to rebook that because of the seemingly bad blood. Mikey was upset.
And they talked about that was the funniest interview.
So maybe
ever.
They were trying to
bring some hype there. I'm not sure. I got nothing else on that.
Yeah.
Other news we got is we have the Misfits squad for Team Europe. I can't pronounce this word, Corey. Can you?
Ferradino.
That's not what I was going to say.
Ferradino, I guess.
For the Team Europe, for the European Misfits squad, is now going to be a heavyweight spot. We have one more spot there, and it's going to be a heavyweight bout between Marcin Maciulewicz, who is the Polish grappler that won trials. He won the Polaris qualifier, versus Freddie Vosgrov. And if you've seen
boy,
an MMA fight out of Germany in the last couple of years, you would have seen Freddie. Freddie came over to actually and trained at Baltimore BJJ for a little bit when he won the DC Open. He was a brown belt still. And so I've had a chance to talk to Freddie. I like Freddie. He's a cool dude. But man,
he looks scary as shit.
Dude, he has put on some mass. And he has like
Hulk smash.
You look at his trials runs and like what Freddie has looked like on Polaris and everything else. Like, man, he is really coming to his own. And like, I am super amped to see two of the top European guys in Marcin Maciulewicz versus Freddie Vosgrov go at it. Because it is like both guys are super aggressive, action-forward grapplers, and both have like a really unique style that'll, I think, match up really interesting. Whoever wins that slot, I think, very deserving. Super excited to see either one of those guys on that team, so that's great. Renato Canuto won his MMA fight via getting shot on and then just
beating the brakes off that guy.
Beating the brakes off the guy from Turtle in the chat.
It reminded me of that. Remember, like Rocky one when he's hitting those slabs of meat. That's what it kind of reminded me.
Dude, like no disrespect to his opponent, but man, like it was in the chat. I think I said, I'm very curious why in your game plan would ever be shooting on Renato Canuto.
He's not the one to shoot on, man.
No,
even in a regular grappling match, he's not the one to shoot on.
Dude, Canuto. Canuto's not a huge guy. He's like a 55 or a 45 or like close to my size. He looks like he hits like a truck.
What was his opponent's name? Do we even know?
I did, and I don't. It's in the other section of notes that are not here.
I got you.
It's in the Miranda notes that I don't have today.
I got it.
And then we move on to the last piece of UFC news for UFC Fight Pass Invitational. They are now using the CJI. They said the CJI style of 10-point scoring. They're using the 10-point must system,
Right.
Which, if you want to ever discuss rules with me, I love it. I will DM and back and forth all day long about rule sets and best things and worst ones. But I think we have beat on the show most of that dead horse into the ground. I don't think people want to hear me talk about rules for that much longer. The 10-point must system, it's easy to understand for most people. Boxing uses it, MMA uses it. It's familiar if you're going to have MMA fighters and like MMA fans watching a grappling event. It makes sense to score things that way. I still personally prefer the way the ADCC does it because you have like additional room for activity. You have a no point. I like that I like the variance that an ADCC rule set gives you in grappling. It's a better rule set for grappling, but the 10-point must system is easier to understand universally for everyone.
Yes.
So it does make sense that CJI and Fight Pass Invitational would go to it. I think it is definitely the lesser of two evils, and I'll take that over what else we could have used here. But that's all I got for news, Corey. Am I forgetting anything else here?
I don't think so. I mean, there's some other stuff that was on there, but stuff going on. But that was the most noteworthy stuff.
So, man, shout out to Joe Gilpin on Flow. They're putting together some good bulletins now, and I appreciate like the renewed news that Flow is putting out because there's neat stuff. The stuff that we used to have to find kind of and dig through is now all being aggregated in one place. It's great to find a place to find up-to-date news. All right, Corey, let's recap Fury Pro 13. I don't think, honestly, I have a ton to talk about for a lot of these, a lot of the matches. I will say, again, I love what Fury's doing. The matchmaking on Fury for some of the matchmaking on Fury is a bit odd, and I'm not really sure what the driving for the demographic is, or they're looking to bring MMA fans into it, or I'm just not. There's some odd matchmaking here for guys that I don't find particularly exciting in this rule set, and I would love them to see. I love to see them take a page out of like Fight Pass Invitational's book, CGI's book, Who's Number One's book, and because they seem to have that level of grappler and that level of talent there. But the matchmaking, I think, for me, leaves something to be desired here. Let's talk about the women's 125.
And also one more thing. I think with this rule set, it's interesting because it almost, if you don't come out and blow someone's doors off, you're kind of like, all right, I'll just go ahead and just grapple for the 6 minutes, finish regulation, and get that golden score in overtime. And that kind of seemed like that was almost the theme, for the exception of a handful of fights. But they're like, let's just get in here and mix it up a little bit and
like
try your game.
Something happened. So the rule set the Fury's using is they're using a regular like 6 or 8 minute match depending on where you are on the card. It's longer or shorter, and then you go to a halftime or a 2 minute or some amount of time overtime.
Yeah, for the 6 minute regulation, 3 minute overtime, and 8 minute regulation is 4 minute overtime,
which is good. I like that the best of any grappling. I think if you're gonna have an overtime, just having a golden score overtime is the best way to do it. I don't have really a problem with the overtime. My problem is with the way that Fury doesn't have a mandate for action.
Yes, correct.
And that's a problem.
Got very stally.
It got stally, or like just not even stally, just inactive. And I think there's like maybe like active stalling, just stalling. Yeah, that's the right way to put it, is stalling. A lot of these matches are, take down overtime, overtime. There's just a lot of them in the main card here. Again, the card flowed great. It was about 2.5 hours. You can find it on Fight Pass on UFC Fight Pass. Let's talk about the women's 125-pound tournament. A little bit of not controversy here, but we had a late replacement in Jocelyn Letcher coming out because
literally on 1 day notice. She was in high school. She's a high school.
Yeah, high school student. Which again, it was kind of cool. The theme here, because Taylor Hirschall's 18, Pun's young, and it's very funny. Just Corey, we keep getting older, and the top level people in the world keep getting younger. We were looking at on the pre-show William Tackett versus Achilles Rocha, which is something we're going to talk about for Fight Pass Invitational, and we went, all right, he was born in 06. And I was like, ooh, like that's when your kids were born.
08 and
It's like that's like, ooh, these are some of the top guys in the world. It's just very funny to like on the commentary bringing up that Jocelyn we didn't want her to drive 100 miles to weigh, and so they did a remote weigh-in for her, so that because she had to go to high school the next day. I'm like, that's wild. That's a crazy story for grappling. Taylor Hirschall, again, very young as well. It was bracketed. I didn't love the bracketing, but it made sense. and it's a tough with a 4-person bracket. So Taylor Hillshaw defeats Jocelyn Lesher via submission. Taylor, you want to? What notes do you have for this one?
I think Taylor basically dominated from the top position the entire time. Jocelyn Lesher, she was game, but she was, I guess, basically on the bottom almost the entire time.
Yeah,
and you can tell that Taylor was just hunting. She was hunting for submission,
which I like to see.
I mean, she was definitely working her game, but like I was saying, Jocelyn, she was game, and at the very end, you know, she caught that arm bar, and you can just tell she saw blood. And but
it was close. It was low time.
Yeah,
when she got, I think, within the last 30 seconds, if not even shorter than that. Like,
yeah,
Hillshaw again. We've seen Hillshaw. I keep calling her Hillshaw. Hishaw. We've seen Hishaw before. We've seen her for the last year or two. She's a girl out of B team. You've seen her on Main Character. I've been curious. We've seen her on Who's Number One, how her game is going to develop and but I like where it's going. She seems pretty strong.
Yes.
She seems pretty willing to throw her weight. She seems very aggressive, which
out of B team, I can see that.
Yeah. Honestly, she reminds me of Jasmine Rocha.
Yeah.
As far as aggressiveness, where it's a little brash, a little kind of bold, and I don't really care about
little foreshadowing now. Hishaw,
I think it's too much too soon.
You think?
But I would love in 2 years or a year or something. If Taylor continues on this trajectory, spoiler, she wins the whole thing here, $5,000 tournament. If she continues on this trajectory, just the style of these two ladies, I really like. It's as Josh puts it, a match that will get chippy.
Yes.
I think.
Oh, very much so.
But yeah, Taylor here, consistent, heavy top pressure. She goes to mounted triangle at one point. She goes over. I liked the transitions, both good positional work, heavy top pressure to prevent Jocelyn from really being able to get a ton of her game going. You can tell Jocelyn had a good game here. Yeah. But Hishaw was consistently able to shut it down with a good underhook management, top pressure. She would rotate to the side to square the hips back down. It was a good mixture of aggressive top pressure and forward movement mixed in with I'm shutting you down when you go to overcommit and extend because you have to get out of these spots. It was just a very good. It was an impressively well-played game, and then she gets the sub at the end in the first round.
And it looks to me like Taylor was a little frustrated. She was getting frustrated that she couldn't put her away.
Yeah.
I got that. She kept looking over to the side. I was like, is she looking at her coaches? She's looking at what's going on here. But I can just tell from her face, she was getting frustrated. She's like, I guess she must have thought, I don't know if she thought it would be a quick one, but it wasn't a quick one. She made her work for it. But it was an interesting match. Yeah. It was entertaining, to say the least.
Next one, we had Trinity. I think this is the first match of the main card. I actually like how they did this. They did the tournament brackets early.
Yes.
Then had the main card, and then had this late in the match. It gave all the athletes enough time to kind of rest between the matches. And athletes talk about this. Tournament pacing is really hard because sometimes you don't want too much time because you get cold again. Yeah. And other times you have a tough match. It's a really hard thing as a tournament promoter to balance how much time you give athletes in an open tournament like this, where it's I don't want to give them too much time to get too cold, but I don't want to have one match be really quick, another match be really long, and then immediately run it back and cool, the other person's really tired, and so it makes this what could be a really interesting match, an uneven match. Again, I don't envy any promoter that has to put that together. Trinity Pun versus Cindy Young happened here. It was back and forth. A lot of Pun playing from the bottom, a lot of Cindy looking to pass. Not hugely active. Ung gets passed, I think, once or twice. Hard to settle. The takedown in overtime, this is this was odd. And there was a couple odd moments in overtime and generally for the scoring for this that I was confused about. But again, I don't think Fury is using ADCC scoring for takedowns, which is what I am most familiar with. I don't know what criteria they're using for takedowns, but I don't think it is the takedown criteria that I understand. And so that's partially, I think it's more of a failure on my end than the broadcast. But I would love the broadcast to maybe be a little more clear. But in this match and the Devontae Johnson match, there was oddness for the way that they were scoring in overtime where I went, I'm curious. So this one, Pun shoots a takedown on Cindy. Cindy tries to go for an arm off the takedown and then eventually gets turned over fully and gets taken down.
But interesting enough, I think Ung she was dominated in the regulation.
Absolutely. I think Ung takes this very cleanly in the regulation.
Yeah,
and I think
cleanly.
even in overtime, like she looked like she was
dominated. But that one
dominating
when she
more.
lost that arm and Pun came around.
She lost the arm, Pun puts her down, and this is we can go into kind of a scoring meta. I don't really have a problem with this. It looks a little odd because generally speaking, for instance, in ADCC, I shoot a double leg. I get somebody shoots a guillotine on me. If that's 2 minutes, I'm in that guillotine, and at 2 minutes I pop my head out and I can stabilize him for 3 seconds, I still get that takedown. Doesn't matter how long I'm in there. If you look at, I forget what match it was an AJ Agazarm match where AJ goes from like partially taking down to taking the back and then finishing a takedown or something like that. I talked about it actually with Carlos on the show years ago. I interviewed one of the head referees for ADCC, head judges for ADCC, and he broke down exactly what it was. When there's a change of position, basically when, hey, we're no longer working towards the takedown, we are now working towards the back, the takedown's done. Okay. Even though there's been no takedown because there's no takedown in Turtle,
right?
We're done. There's no, there's nothing. And so in what I was seeing here was like, okay, it looks like Ung is kind of going for the back, going for the arm. But what I'm guessing the referees and judges saw was, well, she's still on the arm. She has grabbed the arm as a reactionary defensive response. So if she clears the arm and gets put to the bottom, she wins it. Whereas I saw it as, like, you saw the arm as a reactionary response, but then you started pathing towards the reverse triangle from the back and other things. Like, you started pathing towards what I would see as no longer a mere, like a neutral, even takedown position. You've started working positionally for something else. It was then weird for it to see it scored as a takedown after that. That was sort of, I think, my hang-up. They could have also been using IBJJF rules, which is that go-behind, which would explain the Devontae match. Right. The go-behind for 2 as well. Like, again, it was, I would have loved a little more from commentary explaining some of the nuance behind why some of these went the way they went, because I was confused.
Maybe they were confused, so that's why they didn't go into detail.
And there was obviously some of that as well on some of the commentary. Right. But again, it was again, I don't really have a problem with it because I can see how you could score that as a takedown. Yep. But I was just confused exactly what criteria is being used, because it then informs exactly how you as a grappler look at that sequence. And it's like, okay, is it a mistake from Ung the way she played that? Or did Trinity just outplay her in that series? And like it kind of informs me as an analyst what the rules are, who sort of is at fault there, or who just outplayed it. Like, it just gives more information if I know more about the rule set. Sure. So that's it. Anything else on this semifinals match?
No.
Finals match, we had Taylor Hishaw versus Trinity Pun. We saw this match. Who's number one a month ago?
Shit, not even, like 3 weeks maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It goes very similar. I thought Hishaw was even more aggressive and even got more done in this matchup than she did at her Who's Number One matchup. It goes to overtime. It goes to decision. I think Pun was surprised at the decision, and I was not surprised at the decision here. But Trinity Pun when the decision was raised seemed to be surprised at the decision.
I wasn't. It was just basically Taylor from the top, Pun from the bottom, and that was basically what you had.
Yeah, and Taylor,
for the most part,
and I thought Taylor was having
she was slowly covering ground, and I think they made mention. The commentators say it was a battle of inches, and you can kind of see a slow progression of Taylor as the match went on.
Whereas like Pun was working towards guard, getting over, working towards the triangle, working towards a couple things, but it was getting consistently shut down by Taylor, and Taylor was able to like begin to work to a more positionally dominant area, and really at no point had to have any stretch of like demonstrable defense from Pun. And so as a result, like you give it to Taylor. Again, it's Fury as well, which we talk about as like a more MMA styled rule set and decision criteria. Yes. So if you're the top player working on the top, you're probably going to win that more so than not because you have top dominant position. Sure. So again, I would have loved to see a little more activity from Pun here on the bottom, but Hishaw takes that. And again, I'm really curious how Taylor looks at ADCC trials, because that whole gym is working towards that. Yes. And she's 18, super curious because again, if she continues to develop her game, she's looking better and better. I'm very curious how she's going to do here. I think she'll be under 55 kilos too, which will be interesting. If she can make 125, because I figured that Taylor was a little bigger for some reason. Every time I watched her compete, I figured she'd be under 60. She might be under 55.
So was that 121?
Somewhere like that.
Yeah. Okay.
She might be able to make it, especially if it's day before weigh-ins like they're doing now, which I like because again, you see a better quality athlete come that next day. Say, hey man, not somebody who sucks down super hard. It's like, hey, you get it done.
Yes, exactly.
But again, great performances. Impressive beyond like her years of grappling. So very, very curious where she goes.
I liked her take too when she was talking after she got her belt. She's like, she's going to invest that money. She's not going to go out and spend it. So that was impressive coming from someone who was 18, 19 years old. You give me 5 G's when I'm 19, 18. It was gone the next day. I'm sorry, just the way it was.
I was an invest guy, but yeah, I also like that she seems in her interview. She seemed very game to take on anyone.
Oh, and she wasn't happy by her performance. They're like, hey, how do you think you did? She's like, I was like, wow.
I mean, there's two ways. Like some athletes kind of always say that.
Yeah.
If that is actually how she feels, I appreciate that. And I hope that she brings kind of that like, hey, I did not think I'd looked great here. I can look better.
Right.
And she recognizes like the development cycle that she is on for improvement.
And that's the way I took it.
And that's
her answer.
That
made me very, very happy.
Super powerful. I'm like, oh yeah, if you have that attitude now and you're like striving to be better and more successful and like have even more impressive performances, and that really drives you. We have seen this a number of times in the sport, and it usually results in 22-year-old killers.
There you go.
So I'm excited.
I'm all for it.
Where do you want to start with this one? We'll run through the main results for Fury here. I don't want to go into huge detail on a lot of them.
Let's start with the Andrew Cockle match. It didn't last very long. It was like 26 seconds.
Andrew, man,
he was.
I've commentated a bunch of his matches. When Andrew comes out, guns ablazing, dude is really hard to beat.
And I haven't seen very many of his matches before last night because I watched the repeat. I watched this match again, but it was just like I went back, saw some of the other matches. I'm like, this guy's really good.
Yeah,
this guy's like really good.
He can be a little hot and cold now and again.
Yeah.
But again, for context, like I commentated a 45-minute match, Andrew Kako versus Mateus Lutz in like 2018 or something like that, where Lutz took like 45 minutes to put Andrew away.
Jeez.
Yeah, man. Like it was very one-way traffic, but like Andrew's super tough to deal with.
And he caught him with a straight ankle. I told you it's coming back, bro.
We're seeing more and more straight ankle. Like Dima from B Team did an interview on the Simple Man podcast with like Nicky Rod and Damian Anderson, Ethan Crownston, where they were talking about the music. I don't want to give too much away, but it seemed like a huge focus of their camp going into CJI2 was like the position of the straight ankle lock. And I'm like, Mateusz Jasinski has showed us the way. The shotgun ankle lock is like, dude, we're seeing more like when we started doing this show, man, the straight ankle lock was like, it was seen as it's good, but really good guys just aren't going to tap to it.
Right.
And like Meows and other guys, like a bunch of people like just didn't tap to him. And then like 3 years ago, we started to see it kind of creep up. Like Jasinski started breaking guys' feet, and like we started to see Ono Flanagan like break. Like we just saw a couple guys come in, and just more frequently than not, you'd see like, that's like a straight ankle lock, and not a heel hook. You didn't turn it. Not an Aoki lock. Just not a Linz lock. Just a regular bog standard straight ankle lock.
Yeah, like a white belt. I mean, not white belt level, but like something.
But like something you teach a white belt, like day one straight ankle lock. And like
third month of jiu-jitsu under the straight ankle.
There's some more nuance to it, but man, it is coming back, and higher level guys are getting tapped with straight ankle locks, and it's very funny to see kind of everyone get good enough at heel hooks to kind of come back to come back to that controlling position,
right.
And go back to the straight ankle lock and have it work at the higher levels and the highest levels.
There's hope for me yet, man. There's hope for me yet.
There's not for me, Corey.
That's all I can do is a straight ankle.
Hey, man, I don't. I'm sorry, bro. Master 7, man. They let you get him.
Man. Hey, you know.
Your master's what, 4? 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
I started lose count, man.
It's crazy. I'm almost masters in ADCC.
Welcome.
I got one year for ADCC.
Welcome, man.
Like, right now, I'm still fighting guys that are like 19 and 17. I'm like, hey, man.
Yeah.
what are we doing here?
Big difference.
Like,
man.
give me the guys that are my age.
Yeah,
man.
exactly. It makes
like,
a huge difference, especially the next day when you wake up and your back's all messed up.
All he do is jujitsu. I got like a job and a house and a mortgage and a podcast and a wife, and like that 35 cutoff for ADCC is rough. So I'm amped to get next year to go do ADCC Opens in the division I should be in the first place. Looping back in, we had Zach Maslany draws with Pete Shoemaker. We had Taylor Clark defeating Amanda Maza in a takedown in overtime. I commentated Maza's match last weekend on Fight to Win 281 for DC.
That's right. Yeah.
Impressive performance here from Clark, because Clark was down, but intercept doubles Amanda and then gets the takedown. That is a recurrent theme here. We just talked about it earlier. Fury does have a really interesting rule set. I like the golden score. I actually really do like the golden score. And this is a fun match where it's like Amanda's dominating in the regulation and then is planted a little square, and Taylor's able to kind of get the initiative there and get the takedown. And it was just a very interesting reversal where it's like the match isn't done till it's done.
And you can see Amanda's face when she got taken down, and she just smiled, and you can kind of just say, yeah. She saw it. Yeah, yep. I just gave that away.
Because Maz was again. We're gonna see more, but it was really impressive double for Clark to time it right, get it, and just take the match back.
Yep.
That was not going her way. We have Devontae Johnson defeating Dashi Goto via takedown in overtime. Again, I talked about this a minute earlier. I do not think I understand what the takedown criteria is here. This was a 2-second go behind in the dying seconds of the match from Dashi shooting, and then Devontae going and covering the back hip like you would in IBJJF for the points.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're using, but it wouldn't be enough time, and it wasn't. It was done and scored on the replay at the end. I don't really understand what's going on here. Corey and I talked about it last week.
Yep.
Devontae's game. We complained about it on the pre-show a bunch. This Fury needs a mechanism to mandate and require action, because Devontae and Dashi to some point here, given their druthers, will not do anything but mere hand grips and push the entirety of the match. And Devontae was kind of pushing Dashi off the match a couple of times, but it was really there is nothing technical to break down here other than the one-shot counter sequence and the one drag that Dashi hits as a counter to Devontae. The match is too slow. It's not great to watch. There needs to be a mechanism here to push the action, because nothing happened of note in this match other than this odd scoring takedown sequence at the end.
Yep.
And it's just like, it's a problem. Like, this is there's a problematic level of inactivity happening in this match that makes it really not viewer friendly.
And to be honest with you, I mean, that was a hell of a strategy. Like I was saying before, if you don't come out with guns blazing and get something early, well, you say to yourself, hey, let me take this thing overtime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of maybe a strategy thing.
I like that the matches are short enough where if somebody's, again, I never want to fault.
Much better than a 10-minute IBJJF.
Yeah, man. I never want to fault the athletes for this, by the way. I talk about like being frustrated with Devontae and a little Dashi's game here with like, but if they're winning in the rule set that you've provided them to do the thing that I don't like them doing, is like, that's a you problem. That's like, hey man, it's not Devontae's. And Kainan Duarte won me over. ADCC 22. He lays on Craig, gets all the negatives, all the penalties. I think, and my understanding of how ADCC scores, is perfect, exactly how it should have been scored. And then everyone's mad at him, and Kainan Duarte gets up and goes, "Hey man, this is my career. Like, I have to." He's dangerous. He's super dangerous. I have to win this match. This is how you have to win this match versus Craig in this rule set. Don't be mad at me for winning the match in the rule set that I have to win in.
Sure.
And everyone kind of went, you got me, Kainan. I'm a fan. I'm a fan again. But it was like, athletes should look at like that kind of crowd work in the moment to remember, like, that dude brought that entire crowd back towards him. Yeah. I don't want to fault Devontae, even though his game frustrates me greatly to watch and kind of to break down. You can't really fault him. It's not his job to have an exciting match.
Right,
the rule set doesn't require him to do that. Not everyone can be Andrew Tackett versus Cade Rotolo, where you put $20 in the center and you're like, do the fun stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They'll do it for you.
Hell, a quarter. Jeez.
They would do it. They would probably do it for free. Hey, man,
Probably.
you want to fight for honor? And they'll be like, I would love to fight for honor, and they'll go for it. Again, these sort of matches, if you are a matchmaker or you are a person that is designing a rule set for professional grappling, you need to be able to plan for matchups like this, because you need to have ADCC. You need to have a mechanism to mandate athletes to progress the match.
Yes, agreed.
And some sort of way to penalize them if they're not doing that, to force them into the grappling that we're trying to see.
These are two very explosive grapplers, and you just kind of like, you're waiting for it. You're like, damn.
And then it never happened. You're like, yeah, cool.
happened.
And the entire match you end, you're like, yeah, take that overtime.
And then all of a sudden, the last 10 seconds when Daishi shoots, and all of a sudden,
something happens.
Devontae gone. He's gone. I'm like, that's what we've been waiting for. The previous 9 minutes. But so they're both very explosive grapplers, and they have that. But once again, if the rule set doesn't dictate that they, progress, and I don't really blame them.
Super boring match.
Yeah.
Which I try not to ever kind of say on the show openly. Behind closed doors, we'll say a lot, but it's a problem in the rule set that can allow matches for like this to happen. Lucas Siebert defeats Lucas Bird via triangle choke. We had Pat Downey defeats Chris Weidman via a takedown in overtime. The things that I just said about the Devontae versus Dashi Goto match are kind of present here. We had a little bit more forward pressure. This is the match that we knew we were going to get. Full stop. Like, it's Chris Weidman, old school NCAA wrestler, UFC 185-pound champion, former champion, ADCC trials winner, and, went to ADCC in 2009. Pat Downey, world team member for wrestling, very, very decorated collegiate wrestler, like all of the things, all of the wrestling credentials behind these two guys. Ain't no one going to play guard. This is going to be a battle for takedown. This is going to be a takedown in overtime. Chris Weidman, to Chris Weidman's credit, takes Pat Downey down almost in regulation with just a blast up. I was like, damn.
He was about it.
That's crazy.
He committed.
That Chris still has it. And if you look at the way that Pat dealt with this from like a wrestling perspective, it was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, wouldn't actually have scored that takedown. He would have countered it and sat out. And it was, you could see this was a wrestling match. And then Chris Weidman tries to lat drop Pat Downey in the overtime, and Pat Downey goes, "I've seen this before. I'm not getting lat dropped by Chris Weidman." Which, by the way, Chris Weidman has a really good lat drop that he has used in the UFC. Like, he has a good lat drop, like a very good lat drop. 10 years ago, Pat Downey sees it, stuffs it, which is like the classic, which is why at the higher levels in wrestling you typically don't see lat drops, like this done.
Right.
Stuffs it. Chris goes to bridge out, and that's the takedown in overtime. This match looked exactly like I thought it was going to look. Did you see anything here that you found different than what you had anticipated, or any kind of neat sequences in the match?
No, nothing different, but I was surprised to see Pat Downey was so winded at the end of regulation. And the commentators that made mention that he looked like he was just struggling to maintain. But I think that plays into his comment at the very end. He had commented how, Chris Weidman's just a tough whatever, and he's a big boy. And I'm like, that makes sense. And I don't know how long Pat Downey's been doing jiu-jitsu, but he's probably not doing as much wrestling as he won in the past. So his gas tank might not be as what it was when he wrestled full time, like all the time.
And that's one of the
maybe that has something to do with it too. But it was interesting just to kind of see he was really gassed during the end of regulation. I was like, holy shit.
That's one of the things for the conditioning for Downey that he and other people have been critical of, is like, he doesn't tend to come in that bulletproof shape that he needs to compete at the highest level in the world, the level that he, from a technical perspective, could compete at.
Right.
We saw him do, I think, Final X last year, got winded. Like, he's a guy that will tend to get really tired.
Gotcha. It was interesting to see that, because Weidman has about 10 years? I think Weidman's 40 and
Pat's 32,
Pat Downey's like,
I think.
Yeah,
I think it's 8 years. I think.
Yeah, it was interesting.
But also, like, you gotta remember the level that Weidman got to. Like, it's again, Weidman is a freak athlete. Like, we're UFC champion back in like 85. Sorry, back in the 185 division.
85, man.
Back in the day.
Back in my day.
Pre-UFC, back in your day.
Come on, bruh. You're right.
I wasn't live. I wasn't live in 85.
I was. Oops.
I'm I've got him my quote of old guy jokes, Corey.
I was almost in high school in '85. Almost.
Jesus. But again, it makes sense. That didn't surprise me at all, but not surprising is the right word for me. I'm like consistently a little concerned that Downey keeps making these like good grappling runs, but the conditioning seems to be a consistent problem. He's a great enough technician to get it done in spite of that.
Gotcha.
But it seems to be a consistent thread here throughout that like he looks just dog tired. He can get it done, but I'm very curious if he didn't get as tired. And Chris Weidman, again, as we've known, is just a freak of a specimen of a human. If Pat didn't get as tired, like, does this match go different? I don't think it goes any differently for this matchup, but in other matchups where maybe he isn't going to have, like, the age benefit here, or it's like he's going to be more evenly matched up with someone like a grappling realm.
Sure.
Like Mat Grappling. I'm very curious. Like, I think those little percentage points of conditioning will come into play. But
yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see Pat Downey's progression and advancement in jiu-jitsu. It's gonna be interesting
as he seems to like go even more kind of fully into it. Again, I want to see him at trials. I'm very curious to see what it looks like at ADCC trials because again, he's purple belt now under Cyborg. He trains here locally with Monroe and those guys. Super curious how he ends up.
Yeah, and Monroe's on TV. I'm like, hey, I know him.
Oh yeah, here's there. Yep. Next match, we have
Hot Like Fire.
Junior Acosta. This is the best match of the card.
Yes, it was.
By far, versus Kevin Dantzler submits him via heel hook. Kind of like off the mat almost. I watched it a bunch of times. I think initially I was like, that's kind of a place maybe you should reset him. I watched it 4 or 5 times and I was like, I think technically they're still on the mat here. They weren't like in the process of reset. And from the way Dantzler was defending it, Dantzler's the only guy that knows. I don't want to put words in his mouth here. I don't know if he changed how he was defending this because they were on the edge of the mat. I have to imagine that he did, and it did play a factor into it. But regardless, they were still on the mat. But again, it's another match on Fury 13 that ends in kind of like a weird like. That being said, this was going one direction.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Junior Acosta was gonna take a leg from Kevin Dantzler home, and he had before. He's beaten Dantzler before.
Yep.
And we talked about it. Like Junie is one of the best leg lockers in the world. Again, he was with Eddie Cummings for a while. He's been with like all the best leg lockers. He just looks, in rare form, especially with a guy like Dantzler that is willing to play the legs with him a little bit. Junie, there's not a whole lot I want to talk about in this match other than Junie's entries look good. He looks a step ahead of Dantzler. There was one recollection of the leg. I wish I had a better note on it. That Junie makes probably like 3 or 4 minutes into the match. And the camera's kind of pointed over the side. And you can see Dantzler goes to pull his leg. I'll need to find him. I should probably talk about it a little next week, maybe. It's a recollection of the leg that was done in a way that I've never seen someone do before. And that's pretty rare with how long we've been covering and doing this show. Dantzler essentially goes to pull out his leg, and Junie kind of opens his knee line and then threads his leg back through and sits underneath like he's almost going to enter, like you would sort of backstep entry into the saddle. Like that inverted entry that Couch does from the guard where he sits back and he kind of threads his knee behind. Yeah. He does that from like sitting in, but on the opposite side. I wish I had a better way to describe it because I watched it a bunch of times, didn't exactly understand what he was doing, but it was like a recollection of the knee line that that Junie did, that I've just never seen anyone do from that position before. And what made it interesting, the most interesting thing for me is it's something that I've been trying to do for like a couple of years now that I've never had any success doing. And to see Junie, I was like, okay, it is possible to do.
Here you go.
And
pathway to victory.
It was just it was just wild to see like a white whale technique. I've been trying to like recollect the leg when they move. Standler spins his knees down. Doesn't go to running man, but it's on the side here. But he's freed his knee line out of where Ocasio needs to pull it through to basically have the knees beyond Ocasio's knees. And he Davies leans back over and he laces it back through, and it was just such a wild. It spoke to the level of leg locker that Ocasio is. It's like, oh, Junie can make things happen that I have been trying to do for years and like training and never have done in a live title match with Kevin Dantzler. It's
wild.
like, yeah, the level, man, Junie is it is a treat to watch Junie try to break people's legs here. He goes for like a Z-lock at one point, doesn't get it. Dantzler, to his credit, man, consistent defense. He's just turned. He's pushing the knee off. He's pushing the leg off. He's opening the knees. Like a lot of lesser grapplers would have their legs just exploded by Junie much earlier in this match. But Dantzler was just like, he was in it. He was in it.
He stressed Dantzler the whole entire match. He would Junie would get a foot, get an ankle, whatever. And Dantzler would defend. Junie would use that position or foot positioning, whatever grab. He would get up, almost call it wrestle up or stand up, and then almost immediately fall back into another like leg attack. And goes, I'm just like, that's pretty damn cool. So he was constantly stressing Dantzler, and Dantzler was constantly on the defensive. Constantly. I'm just like, wow, he's stressing this guy out.
I like that he was willing to fight from the top and the bottom. One of there's Junie's a world level competitor. And there's something he did at the beginning of the match that I thought was really cool. It was he pulls, and then he immediately works a wrestle up sequence from like a leg entry to sit Dantzler down. This is would normally get him 2 points.
Right.
And he did it immediately. And I was like, that's a really interesting, like, not psychological, but like, that's a very easy way early in the match to put a stamp on. It's like, hey, this is going to be my match going in the direction I want to go. Where it's like, you want to play from top, but you sit and pull to be able to sweep, to play from top, to show you that I can play from top. It was just like a really interesting, it's something you see occasionally guys will do. They'll like, hey, I know that I'm better here. I know that I can put a stamp on the match. I know that I can force you into the area that I want to fight you in. So I'm going to take the worst position just to put myself in the position I wanted anyway and work from it to show you that I can do this at any time. And
that's pretty much what he did.
It was beautiful technique, and it was just from the jump. And we don't see Junie as frequently as I would like to see Junie, but just really, really impressive leg chains all the way to the sub. Off the side, to the edge of the mat. Yeah. But, yeah, man, it's great. I wouldn't want to fight Junie.
No, me neither. And that was a nasty heel hook, and he was he was being nice about it. I mean, you could just look at Dantzler's face. He was grimacing. It looked like it was tight. Yeah, it must have been a verbal tap. It looked like he screamed.
Yeah, man.
I couldn't really hear it, but
it's tight.
But yeah, I wouldn't want to grapple Junie. No.
And main event, we had Pat Sabatini defeating Joe Selecki. Via, was it decision or was this overtime?
Decision? No, actually, it was decision. I think it went to.
This is a title fight though, so it wouldn't have been overtime. I think it was.
Yeah, it was just a decision.
It ended. This was Selecki playing guard. Well, again, I appreciate that he was willing to play guard. Sabatini passing. Neither really gets much going as far as submission wise goes, but Sabatini is just consistently able to maintain top position and force defensive guard play from Selecki. Selecki does a great job going between like
deep half. He went
deep half, a looped open guard. Kind of tries to go to like a modified long leg X guard. At one point, plays a little De La Hiva. Sabatini just stays ahead of it. Does some nice outstepping work. Which is nice to see. Eventually, he's able to get past it.
Past the guard. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Like a minute left.
Yeah. But there wasn't much as far as, it was very kind of bread and butter jiu-jitsu. Credit to Selecki for deciding to play from the bottom, but Sabatini's able to get it done because he can pass and then stay on top.
That was basically it.
That was Fury. I kind of air my gripes with Fury throughout us talking. I like what Fury does. I love that they put on these cards. I just would love a little additional
incentive for some action during regulation.
Not even incentive, just like mandate. Change the rules a little bit to mandate that they have to push for, or even give your referee the ability to call for action, and then even if overtime, like, hey man, if you have a penalty going in because you haven't been active, you just lose. Like that's give some framework for a penalty system that will allow us to see some more activity from these guys.
Sure.
And I would love to see a little more jiu-jitsu stylistic matchmaking than the MMA and wrestler style matchmaking. Yeah. I just think it'll make for a little more exciting fights for some of the matchups. But again, love to do it. Production quality is fantastic. And I love that they're having a women's tournament. Not enough organizations have women's tournaments.
Agreed.
And I love that they're putting them on.
And I love how they kept this whole thing going.
Pacing was good.
There was not a time in there I was like, man, I'm just bored out of my mind watching commercials and blah, blah, blah. I mean, they had their fair share, but it was just
2.5 hours, guys. This is the length of a jiu-jitsu card that I want to see. Make it 2.5 hours. It's enough fights, enough matches. You had a tournament. Like, I can sit down with the boys, people from Grappling Rewind, bring them on, people from our gym, bring them over, and watch a 2.5 hour card and make an evening of it.
Yep.
I don't feel like I'm getting punished watching a grappling card. So props, credit where credit is due.
Agreed.
Let's talk about the preview for the Fight Pass Invitational 11, the matchup that I wanted to see. We went way deep. We had a rematch between Ffion Davies and Adele Fornarino on this. This was supposed to happen back, I think, in March. I think Ffion got injured, an arm injury. It's now gotten booked again. Ffion takes this first one at ADCC 2022 in the first round of the under 60 kilogram division by armbar submission. And then Adele from that matchup looks better and better and better and better and better. Adele wins 2024 ADCC. She wins the inaugural women's under 50 kilogram division and the first women's absolute division in the modern era as the smallest grappler as the smallest person from the weight class. Super impressive. Ffion didn't do ADCC that year. She went and took the bag and fought Mackenzie Dern at CJI2. Took a pretty clean victory over her via armbar. That being said, both of these women have not competed in 2025. It's been 6 months.
True story.
It's been like 8 or 10. It's been the better part, closer to a year than not, since either Ffion or Adele has competed.
That's a long time.
It is a long time, and it kind of makes me not cagey, but a lot can happen in that time. And it makes me sort of wonder the dynamics of the matchups we were talking about on the pre-show, the dynamics of this matchup.
And it makes you wonder if Ffion is 100% healthy.
Yeah, that was kind of, you put that in my head, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to have to think about that as a possibility going into this matchup, but it's true. 2024, Ffion only has 5 matches. 6 matches. One of them is CGI. She has ADXC2 in January. She has ADXC4 later in the year. She beats Nikki Lloyd Griffiths at Subversion. She beats Brianna St. Marie at Polaris 27. She'd beaten Brianna before. I think that's the highest level matchup that she took that year, but she already had a win over her at ADCC.
Sure. And
it went a similar way. Not a huge level of activity. And then going back in 2023, she was much more active in 2023. I think her most recent loss is a toe hold from Elizabeth Clay at Polaris 23. In contrast, 2024, Adele was busy. She beats Tubby Aliquin, who's number 1 2022. She competed on Subversion as well. She gets an armbar win. She did Grapple Fest 18. She did ADCC Oceanic Trials, where she wins her spot in the under 55 kilogram division. She beats Anna Rodriguez, who's number 124. She beats Maisa Bastos, Jasmine Rocha, Bianca Basilia, Brianna St. Marie, Rafaela Geddes, Beatrice Mosquita at ADCC to take both her division and the title. That's all. We're still in 2024. She wins the Pan-Pacific Championship. She wins who's number 125 by straight ankle lock over Sofia Castello. And then she loses to Maisa Bastos in 2023, a loss that she would avenge at ADCC the following year.
You know what? Seeing all that, man, I think Ffion's going to win this because Adele's just tired. She had a rough 2024, man.
But she had 8 months off. She's had a bunch of time off again. So the dynamics of the matchup, let's talk about the first matchup. We just watched it again. Ffion wants to play the top.
Yeah.
Wants to pass. Has some of the, I think Jasmine Rocha, the basic bitch knee cut pass. And then Ffion leaned into it, has like shirts that made it. I love that, like, that's a good basic bitch knee cut pass. But Fion's probably the best woman in the world at it. Phenomenal knee cut passer. Adele wants to play the guard. And the most recent high level matchup that we've seen Ffion was the rematch with Brianna St. Marie, who is also a close guard player.
Right.
She's beat her twice. Yeah. Stylistically in the matchup, I'm concerned with Adele's just the way, the area that Adele wants to play in is that closed guard. The area that Ffion excels at the
top.
best is top and passing that close guard. We've seen her have success versus Brianna twice. We've seen her beat this matchup before. Now,
strength on strength. It's going to be interesting.
I do think Adele is bigger. Adele looks like she put on some mass and some muscle since the 2022 matchup. And then the Adele that won 2024 ADCC didn't quite look like the same woman. Adele looked like much more petite. She was in the under 60 kilogram division in 2022, and Ffion looked notably bigger than her. Not like enormously bigger, but bigger, which makes sense that Adele would go down to 55 kilos and Ffion would stay at 60. She would go against Mackenzie Dern at 135 or something. But again, I don't know if Ffion is going down to 55 kilos. Let me actually check that here. Yeah, Ffion historically 62, 66, 64, 68. Whereas Adele, historically 53, 55, at the highest in 2022, she's doing 60, but that's when ADCC only had the under 60 kilogram division for the women anyway. So, like, there's a size difference here. I think Adele has put on some size since 2022. I think she's competing bigger. I think she's still going to be the undersized grappler in this matchup versus Ffion. Okay. But I don't know if it will be kind of as stark of a contrast as it was in 2022. My concern here comes from that style matchup of, essentially, I think this comes down to, can Ffion pass Adele and hold her in top position and get mount and progress her game from mount, exactly like she did in 2022? Or can Adele finally get the overhook guard game that she wanted to play, that she had so much success with in ADCC 2022, and take it? For me, that's the question. Does Ffion open the guard and get the knee cut going and finish it, or does Adele get the overhook game going and win there? I'm inclined to think that the style of the matchup hasn't changed. Although in the last year, or the last 2 years, Adele has had the far better competition record versus much higher level competition more consistently. Did not get beat in 2024. Ffion had 6 matches in 2024, but again, you were already the world champion the year prior. You were already the ADCC champion 2 years prior. Like, she had nothing to prove. Why wouldn't I go and take select matchups for a bunch of money as a professional? Versus Adele was still sort of on that grind, going to win those world titles the following year. So I can't really fault them from a career management perspective either way.
I think it was a different mindset from Ffion, because she made that video about why she pulled out of ADCC.
Yeah.
So I think it was just kind of, she was choosing her matches wisely. She got the bag from CJI, and I think she was just like, you know what, I'm going to make my money.
And that's there's no need to be competing every weekend. Like, on the IBJJF grind, like, once you win that title, man, there's not like, you're not paid more money to win a second title.
Correct.
They're not going to pay you to come back to do it again. Yeah, you get entrance forever now because you're a world title holder. Like, it's a nice bonus.
But at the end,
20
you're
years
not really chasing a bag. You're chasing
you're chasing prestige and a legacy, but not necessarily like that title because you have the title. So it's, again, I am both leaning into and not leaning into how active they both have been. But in the last year, Adele has the far better competition record, but it makes sense that she's at a different point of her career than Ffion is, that Ffion wouldn't be as active. Yeah. The level of activity does concern me a little bit, though, because we just haven't seen either of them in like 6 or 8 months. Yeah. That's my big concern here. And so I think I kind of do want to lean. It wouldn't surprise me to have Adele change the game here and be able to beat Ffion. It also wouldn't surprise me here to have the style that has been successful for Ffion versus Brianna St. Marie, a heavy guard player, and Adele Fornarino, a heavy guard player, work. Like, she figures it out. The way that
you gotta make a pick, man. You gotta commit, bro.
I think I go to Ffion here, and I go Ffion because if you look at the way that Ffion is addressing, the way that Adele wants to play the overhook guard in 2022. She's very diligent. She's a step ahead. She's doing a good job of consistently not getting off balanced, not getting her arm trapped, pummeling under. She's just continually shutting down the game that Adele wants to play.
Agreed.
And I think that she will have the like the awareness to continue to do that and do that correctly and not make a mistake. And then when she's able to get to the position that she needs to start opening the guard to pass, she will be able to do that.
Agreed. And that's my take as well. My pick is going to be Ffion. I think sometimes less is more. But when you're the big dog on top of the heap, you can be a little bit more choosy. So I agree. Typically, we would look at activity, and that would kind of almost push us the direction in which we're trying to go. But I think in this situation, I told you to commit, but now I'm just like, it wouldn't surprise me either way.
So here's my
but I think Ffion clearly takes this only because I think that she knows they're so familiar with one another. Yeah, and I don't think their games are going to totally change up too much from what
in
they
my
typically
head.
have
This
been.
is Fion's to lose.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
I think Adele has a game. Again, we're staring at Adele's record here on the screen. A lot of arm bars, a lot of triangles. Absolutely, Adele. If Ffion makes an error,
it's wraps. It's yeah.
Adele can get the armbar.
Sure.
And that's
No doubt.
that's sort of and we've seen occasionally, not frequently, 2023 here and again, we've seen Ffion make little errors here and again. Again, versus Elizabeth Clay. The Players 23. That's the one I kind of always come back to because that was such a weird, like a match that we didn't really expect Ffion to lose, but Elizabeth Clay, again, was one of the best leg lockers in the world at the time for the women and was very good at that game. But it was you saw her make a little error, play into Clay's game, and Clay just gets the sub.
Yeah.
That we've seen that throughout Fion's career on a rare occasion, but occasionally, does happen. But Adele's has a game that doesn't pair well with the way Ffion plays. And so that's why it's like
Plays in
seeing an
Fion's strength.
armbar or a triangle from Adele will not surprise me in the slightest.
Sure.
And seeing what we have always seen from Ffion, which is that cross-side knee cut, or the right leg forward knee cut on the cross-side, work and positionally dominate, also doesn't surprise me. So
I think you got two A games, and I think Fion's A game is just going to be just a little bit better than Adele's A game. So
and then the size there too.
Yeah,
So.
I don't know if she's going to sub her, but I think she might get the
My
decision.
gut tells me to go with Adele. The analysis part of me tells me to go Ffion.
But you got to go with your gut, man. Always go with your gut.
I'm not. No, we call that a Miranda pick. I'm trying to do a meal picks.
I understand.
So, but yeah, again, I'm amped for this. This is the match to make right now, for me. So I'm amped for it. Do you have any other pieces on this one?
No, man. It's going to be a fun match.
Next one, we have Raquel Canuto versus Ana Vieira, Baby Vieira. I am amped for this because Raquel has been looking better and better and better and better and better. Ana Vieira is going to be tough to beat. But I think if the Raquel that has showed up the last year shows up,
It's going to be,
she can win this.
yeah, pretty convincingly.
If
pretty
the Ana
quickly.
Vieira that we saw in 2018 shows up, Ana Vieira takes this cleanly. I think that is the matchup. Is like if Vieira can come out and start winning early, she can take the entirety of the match.
Sure.
If she gives Canuto too much time to get going, Canuto, much like her husband, takes this whole thing. Next match
That's basically it.
Next match
That's basically
that's
it.
absolutely, it's listed here as 145. Absolutely not taking place at 140. If it is, we got to cut something off.
Yeah.
William Tackett versus Achilles Rocha. This is,
They're both 88ers, right? I think we looked into that.
I think they're 88s. Tackett wins trials at 88. Achilles has done trials a bunch at 88, both North American trials and South American trials. Both young. Achilles is what, 18?
Yeah.
Now black belt. William is now 22, 24.
4, 25, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
We look at just the records here. William takes this. William, in his trials runs, has had more consistent success, and he has won trials. Achilles has not won trials.
Correct.
He has done more trials because he has done both South American and North American trials, but he has always sort of had a misstep, had a gotten taken out, had an injury, had something go wrong in his trials run. That being said, when he was doing these trials runs, he was 16, 17, and 18. What I didn't consider on the pre-show, Corey, he was a child fighting grown men
Agreed.
Versus William. William is now, we've been covering him. I think I interviewed William when he was like 19 or 18 at Kasai Pro in Dallas. He is really, he's coming to his own in a significant way. William has had more consistent success at the highest levels. He's had more consistent success at trials. Achilles is really coming into his own. Now he got his black belt. He won brown belt worlds. Achilles will get there eventually. My question is when. Tackett is already there. And there is nothing from him or his brother that indicates to me that we are going to see increased technical failings or problems creep up in their game with the way that they're playing their game. I go William Tackett here. If Achilles Rocha is on, he can put a lot of guys away quick. Sure. The same for Tackett.
Sure.
But I think that the level of inconsistency that we have seen from Rocha's game, and for Rocha to make either tactical errors, strategic errors, technical errors now and again, doesn't let me confidently pick him versus William Tackett, who generally doesn't make any unforced errors. Like,
I get what you take.
Dude's
there.
won trials twice.
Yeah, he's very consistent.
Yes,
very consistent.
Whereas
makes very few mistakes, and he always seems to be on.
Yeah.
We
have Achilles Rocha has a recent win over Nathan Haddad, has a loss to Mateus Lutz, has a win over Thiago Sa at trials, has a win over Luis Gustamo, win over Caleb Crump at North American trials. He has a loss to Elder Cruz. He has a loss to J-Rod, whereas William Tackett has a win over J-Rod at trials, whereas J-Rod he loses to Achilles Achilles loses to J-Rod at ADCC itself. Mm-hmm. We look at the last year for William Tackett. We have a win over Elder Cruz. We have a submission win at trials over J-Rod. We have a win over Kenta Iwamoto. We have a loss to, João Gabriel Rocha, which João Gabriel Rocha is enormous.
Yeah.
That was the first round of CGI won. Why William Tackett won trials and then pulled out to do CGI. Him and his brother were the first two guys to actually go, hey, it's real, we're doing it.
Yep.
A loss at who's number one to Francisco Lowe in 2023. He has a win over Bradley Hill. He has a win over Chris Shangoli. He has a win over Jason Rao. Another loss to Elder Cruz here. But again, we're back in East Coast Trials 2023. A win over J-Rod again in 2023. So It's like we have a level here of consistency from Tackett that we kind of just don't have yet from Achilles.
I think the word is yet.
Yeah, because
he's still very young.
We're looking at Achilles' record
back from 2021.
When he was 15.
15 years old.
Like, it's
Crazy.
not... BJ Heroes didn't used to have records.
Sure.
Like, Tackett and Rocha are two of the guys, or the rare guys, that got brown and purple belt pages. Like, Tackett was the third guy ever to have a BJ Heroes page. Ethan Carlson was the first. Always forget who the second one was. But, like, these guys just didn't have pages. And so we're getting a chance to look at their records way down low when they were children. And so it's like, it's a yet. I go Tackett here.
Which is crazy. We've been following these guys since they were kids. And they were at that level as a kid.
Dude,
that's crazy.
Rachel takes a picture. I'm doing interviews in the ADCC 2019.
Yeah.
And Wagner comes up to me after I interview him, probably like 10 minutes later. I've done more interviews. And he goes to my wife and goes, hey, you take a picture of my family. And Rachel goes, yeah, of course. And gets a picture of Wagner and Jasmine and Achilles, who I think at that point, 2019, so Achilles was like 14 or 13.
Wow.
I was like a kid, and I was like, both these kids are going to be good. I looked at it, I was like,
killers.
Both kids are going to be monsters.
And they are.
And now Jasmine and they're both like trials winners and, have had crazy successful careers.
They have literally grown up on the mat. Probably, I can only assume since they were walking, they were on the mat. Even before then, they're probably crawling around the mat.
Yep. And so, again, it's not if, but when. But I think right now, William Tackett is more consistent. He consistently wins at more and at higher levels. And I think that, generally speaking, he has a game that is suited better for winning rounds in Fight Pass Invitational. Him and his brother, man, they have round-winning games because they are quick, they're high-paced, and they're exciting.
Yes.
Again, William less so than his brother Andrew, but still very much that is the case. So less technical, more just a records breakdown, but
Yeah.
I'm going to go William on this one. Not happening at 145. I'm guessing it's happening at 185.
That would be my guess.
Next one, we have anything more on that?
No.
We have we have Mason Fowler versus Cristiano Torsi, another fight sports guy. A lot of fight sports guys on this card. I'm not super familiar with Cristiano, but it's Mason Fowler. So I'm making a gut pick for Fowler, but again,
Mason Fowler.
But UFC has done really, really good jobs with their matchmaking, and they were giving Fowler a push for a while. But again, I have to go Fowler here. We have Francisco Lo versus Enrico Saed. Again, another fight sports guy. Francisco Lo, super hard to beat, super taped up. You always got to wonder how his knees and ankles are doing. They're doing bad. We know that because they're so taped up. But very hard to beat. I really don't have much on that one. Corey,
No, I have nothing.
125-pound match. We have a rematch between Jasmine Hosha and Alex Enriquez. They've met 2 times. Jasmine Hosha has submitted Alex Enriquez both of the last 2 times. She beats her at trials, and she beats her at IBJJF. I think at Nogi Worlds or Pans or one of the big Nogi events by footlock, by like a straight ankle lock, modified straight ankle lock. I'm going Jasmine Hosha here. We've seen stylistically how the matchups play, and Jasmine just is so overwhelmingly aggressive that it puts Alex on the back foot.
Yeah.
And then she is able to force errors. She's able to force Alex into the place that Jasmine wants to have the match, and then win the match from there.
Yeah. She forced her right into her game. She's so aggressive that Alex kind of backs up, and then once she's so aggressive, she steps out there, and she makes her. Well, and she closes ground on her. So she's aggressive, and she closes the ground, and she makes Alex go, "Wow, I have no choice but to go down your rabbit hole."
Play into your game, then you get someone playing out of your game, and usually at the highest levels.
Yeah.
Sorry, but for years, like once you get someone playing into your game, and this is partially what has made Jasmine so successful. Is that she is technical enough and aggressive enough that she can force the woman she competes against into her game, which is, in contrast, when she's fighting Ffion, Ffion can force her game and stifle that.
Yeah.
And then it.
She's one of the few, speaking of Ffion, I think that was one of the few matches I've seen Jasmine just get totally just demolished.
Yeah, but it's Ffion. It was the best woman in the world.
Yeah. Normally you don't see Jasmine.
We kind of see Ffion do that to pretty much everyone, which is kind of why I picked her.
Yeah. But other than that Ffion match, you really don't see Jasmine get big dog like that.
No.
She's typically the one doing the big dogging.
Again, I think Jasmine's game here, the where it has been successful, both on the back take to the rear naked choke and to the footlock. They've been close both matches have been close. The 2 recent ones I pulled.
Sure.
But Jasmine has taken both of them. I am not inclined to pick against that. Even if Alex Enriquez makes some changes to her game, it's winnable for her.
Oh, very much so.
But
I don't see it happening.
Jasmine is just super aggressive and a super hard hunter for the finish, and she's getting really good at that.
And I think she's one that feeds off of her emotions. And I think on this one here, she probably does not want to give this one up.
And she knows she's already beat her. She knows probably has the confidence.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Going in. I think it's a rough matchup for Alex Enriquez. But again, she makes some changes to her game. It is winnable. Next one, we have a couple more matches on this card, but those are the ones I really wanted to run through Fight Pass. Should be super fun. Again, hell of a main event. Absolutely. Main event is a Thursday card. It is happening May 29th. Starts at 8 p.m. because they hate us. Dear Lord, please start your cards at like 6 p.m. Eastern time. Or at least, but actually no. Fight Pass is fine because it only runs a couple hours. It usually is a quick card, 2.5 hours. It's not a long card. 8 p.m. is fine. I'll give it to you. Which again is 5 p.m. Pacific. You can't start really before 5 p.m.
Yeah, people are still working out there.
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm just used to like the 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. start time at a 6-hour card. You're like, hey guys,
2 o'clock in the morning.
What do you? 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't care anymore. Yeah. So 8 p.m. for a 2.5-hour card. We're done by 10:30. I'm loving it. I'm super amped to go. So that's Fight Pass Invitational. Let's move on real quick to talk about IBJJF Worlds. We have brackets out. The show's running long. Really, I don't really want to run through all of the brackets because I think honestly, as we've done the bracket recap for the last 8 years. There's so many X factors in these, and there's 18 divisions overall. We're looking at about 40 brackets, probably, give or take. Corey, do you have big notes or anyone you want to talk about? Big names we have Jansen Gomez here. We have Tynan Daupra here. We have Andy Murasaki here, notably with Mika absent from that division. Those are the big names. I think we have Isaac Doderlin and Cole Abate here in the same division. I'll run through here. You stop me of Gutenberg Pereira and Seif at the ultra heavyweight division. Let's see, Eric Muniz.
I didn't see his brother in there.
His brother's I think a division lower. If I could be correct. Adam Wardzinski again at the top of his division at heavyweight. Let's see, Pedro Henrique is in here as well. We have Jansen Gomez and Gustavo Batista at the men's medium heavyweight in your top 2 spots. We have in your middleweight division, we have Tynan Daupra and Rolando Sampson, Nathan Chung, your top 3 spots here. At lightweight, we have Murasaki, Pedro Henrique Costa, Espen Mathisen, Mateus Gabriel, former world champion as well.
You got Dorsey in there, Elijah Dorsey.
Oh, yeah, Elijah Dorsey as well. I just covered his match.
That could be interesting. This could be interesting.
Yeah. I just covered his. We commentated his match at Fight to Win 281 last week, and he talked about going to Worlds. At men's featherweight, we have Miriam Maguire, who just had a wildly good performance versus Baby Shark. I think a couple weeks ago, we have Isaac Doderlin, we have Kennedy Maciel, we have Cole Abate, Fabricio Andres in this division, we have Alexander Sodre in this division.
And I believe Fabricio and Cole are on the same side of the bracket, so that should be very interesting. I think they meet in like the second round because Cole got a bye the first round. Yeah, Cole got a bye.
Cole's a bye here, and then he's on the same bracket.
Yeah, Fabricio 7.
Oh shit, Yuta Shimada's in here as well. Yeah, these are my people, Corey.
Okay.
We can run through this. We can run through this entire bracket all night. I'll have a great time. Yep, you're right. Fabricio Andre is on the same side of the bracket, so they will meet in the round of 8.
That should be interesting.
Oh, sorry, round of. We have
round of
semis,
8. Round of 8.
Finals, semis, finals, quarters, in the quarters, if they meet up here.
And that's assuming that Fabricio Andre takes care of business, but
yeah. But look for that one again. I kind of think that Cole takes that. Unfortunately, I love Fabricio Andre. He's now the Australian the Australian wild card. But yeah, and then Miriam's on the other side of that bracket, so that should be fun. This is anyone's ball game for men's featherweight division. At light featherweight, we have Baby Shark. No, sorry, we have Pato. 23 champion, 24 champion, now representing AOJ. In your number 2 spot, you have Baby Shark. Number 3 spot, you have Malachi Edmond from TLI. Again, crazy stacked high-level division. In your roosterweight division, we have, let's see, Rodrigo Oliveira. You have Carlos Abreto. You have Taliesin Soares in here. You have Michael Jalen Foncier. I can never get his last name. Foncier.
Fonacier.
So you have 2 returning champions in Carlos and in Taliesin. Your 2022, 2024 world champions. Again, look for those guys to take it. Also local to us, we have Tadaya Danforth from Foundry, which is cool to see. And guys local to us in these divisions and the mixes. For the women at super heavyweight, we have Gabby Pisana, Taina Porfirio. We have a division of 7 in total. Those are the 2 women that I want to see go at it. Yes. They have a back and forth with Porfirio taking the last one, somewhat controversial fashion to the previous one. She just beat her at a big major. I want to see it again. Pisana is your 22, 23, 24 world champion, but Tiny has been there before and now has a win over her. These 2 women are...
Wow, and just looking at the points, Grand Slam points between Gabby Pisana and Tayana.
But Porfirio's been out for like 4 years.
That is true.
That's what it was. Because Porfirio was the champion too.
Yeah.
And then had the doping suspension and came back. And it was a whole thing. I said it last year. Porfirio is the only one in this division right now that has a game that can beat Pisana with any regularity. And then she showed you she can do it.
Yep.
And now I'm curious where it goes at the World Championships. So Under the heavyweight division, we have Tamares Ferreira. We have Melissa Stricker-Kuto, who is also in this division. Alicia Diaz, Yara Suarez is now down from the the super heavyweight into the heavyweight division.
Interesting.
Out of Pasana's division. These usually meet in the finals. Your world champion 24, 23, and 22 are all here in this division, represented at the heavyweights. At the black belt medium heavyweight division, we have Tamara Ferreira, who's the 2024 world champion, and Maria Carolina Vicente as well. There's also Ingrid Alves is in this division. Ariel Laverne is in this division. This is a much bigger division of 15 at women's medium heavyweight. We have a middleweight division for the women. We have Elizabeth Clay in this division representing Aries. This is the number 3 spot. We have, who's number 1 right now? Number 1 for this division is, I love when they cut off the names, Thalita Lima is her last name, but I can't see it because why would I have a thing I can see it? Also in your number 2 spot, another woman local to us from TLI is Vanessa Griffith.
Yeah.
So that should be, again, a fun division, a division of 22 for the women. I think middleweight's going to be the biggest women's division, maybe. Lightweight is a division of 15. We have Brianna St. Marie in your number 3 spot. We have Jaina Maya in your number 2 spot from AOJ, and your returning world champion from 2024, which is Luisa Montero, representing Atos. In your featherweight division, we have a division of 15. We have Larissa Campo, AOJ, your number 1 spot. Cassia Mora, is this her first World of Black or second World of Black? First World of Black, right?
First World of Black.
First World Championship in the gi in black. Fastest woman from blue to black belt ever. Kate Egan's in here as well. Abby O'Toole, Elizabeth Pendleton is in here. We have Margaret Cicerelli as well in here, and we have Maria Pinto as well in this division. This should be a super fun finals. I'm curious. Curious how this division stacks out. Cassia Mora is on the same side as Alyssa Campo, but they're on opposite corners, being number 4 and number 1. So
collision course.
So probably going to see someone on that side of the bracket. Going to see someone that's they're gonna meet up. I'm excited for it.
I think so.
Light featherweight division of 13. We have Jessica Carol. Who's that? We're gonna cut the names off, aren't we?
Yeah.
Jessica Caroline. We have Brenda Larissa here from Alliance as your top 2. We have a bunch of other names. We have Mia Fungetta as well. Is in this division. I think a brand new black belt from Atos. So the Fungetta sisters. So it'll be cool to see her in this division. Roosterweight, final division for the ladies. We have 14 in this division. Maisa Bastos, your 2022, 2023, 2024 champion. Again, we saw her take a recent loss. I forget who she lost to, but
yeah, I can't remember either.
I think she's 10-time world champion, 5 in the gi, 5 in no-gi.
Yeah.
She is the woman to beat for this division.
Agreed.
It is hard to pick against her. But yeah, those are the main front runners for all of the divisions. We're going to do a full Worlds recap next week, or maybe even the week prior. It depends on how Fight Pass Invitational runs.
Yes.
Because doing both of those events at the same week is going to be super tough. And honestly,
because each one is a show by itself,
I would want to give them both their time.
Yeah.
And so we will figure out exactly how we structure the recaps for if we do them one or the other. So that's it. That's the week's show. Any kind of closing thoughts on Worlds or anything else, Corey? You got anything fun going on?
Nothing else, man. Just work, get up, work, and I'm training more, which is good.
That's good. So nice to see you.
Motivated. Yeah, my oldest kid has a car now, so less driving her around and more of doing me. So we'll see.
Nice. I'm ready to never get into a car again, even though I'm working in DC all week.
Which would be great. Joy.
Yeah, I'm not excited about that, but yeah, we drove up. We left Wednesday, went up to see Rachel's parents up north, and then drove from Augusta, Maine down to New Hampshire for the bachelor party, then back up, and then I drove up to one of my old coaches, and then back down, and then we drove back down on Saturday for the wedding, and then we back up and then down again. So it was basically the past 4 or 5 days. I think I've driven 1,500 miles. Might actually be more. It might actually be closer to 2,000 miles.
Wow!
And I'm just very, very ready to never get in a car again. Even though I gotta drive to DC next 3 days. So I'm next weekend is gonna be a
you can take
big
the helicopter.
chiller.
Just take the helicopter down there.
Yeah, man.
You can use mine. I'll let you borrow it for a couple of days.
I'm excited to just next weekend just sit and watch Worlds at the house and not
nice.
go anywhere.
That'd be nice. Maybe I'll come over.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Anything else?
Nothing much, man.
All right. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host,
Cory.
and we are the Grappling Reruns, and that's what it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
Let us know.
reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.